Yeah. Good evening. Afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, sir. Hear
Good
you loud and
afternoon. How
clear.
you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes,
All
sir.
right. All right. Yeah,
On
you're
on, on the watch dogs, but we only have one dog on the watch.
yeah, the other dog
But
is
the
probably
other
sick somewhere. I don't
oh
know where he's at. He's probably sick somewhere, knowing him. Either traveled all day or all night and tired somewhere. But
yes.
and then I guarantee, let me look. Oh no, he hasn't. Yeah, I thought he would already chimed in, and he loves to comment when he don't show up. He loves to comment.
It's all good. I think he's a little under the weather, but
Oh
we wish him well and hopefully healing um, real soon from whatever he's recovering from.
yeah, he's the special one on this program. He's the special one. He show
Yes.
up though. He shows up and he shows out. He on all the shows with us. Him and Jamal and Bernard. We do a whole lot to try to keep things up and running and moving around here.
Well, I definitely won't hold that him not being here against him today because you're right. He does do a lot for ATR. Jamal is like on every show. I,
Jamal every show. He's
it,
the
it,
wait. He I guess he's like that CNN analyst that's the expert. You know, they
right,
always got that expert analyst. Jamal is the All Black media expert.
right, right. I think anytime he can throw out Herschel B. Jenkins High School,
Oh no,
he'll get
don't
on the platform.
let's not even mention Herschel V. Jenkins. You know, we don't even want to talk about them because we
That's
know they're the ninth best school in the county.
that's
They're
right.
not the
That's right.
first or second. They're the ninth best school in the county.
That's
And
right.
we'll do that rundown. I think we got it somewhere with a rundown of all the schools.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, I think it's somewhere. Let me see if I can find it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Now, now this is a list that was polled, or
yeah. This is a list that we polled people while we walked the streets, and
wow.
this is a list that was polled, and and we got that list, uh, and we got that list, and they came in ninth. I mean, probably because we didn't talk to that many people that went to Jenkins, but still, nobody thought that their school was that great. You know. So if you're ready to go, we can get into this list of questions. Tell everybody who you are and what you're running for.
All right. Well, thank you again, Mr. Hall, for having me. My name is Orlando Scott. I am a candidate for Georgia Senate District 2. It's the seat currently held. A lot of people ask me out in the street, what seat is that? What seat is that? It's the seat that's currently held by Dr. Lester Jackson, who is vacating his seat to run for a high office. He's actually running for the Commissioner for Labor. So it's a statewide position. So very big deal for him, and we wish him well, in his endeavors. But I'm running for the Senate District seat. It covers much of Greater Savannah, Garden City, Port Wentworth, and Thunderbolt. So pretty much most of the county outside of the Islands and Pooler, just to make it simple. I'm a native Savannian, born and raised here, schooling and everything, graduate, SSU, Savannah State University, go Tigers, from the School of
Uh-huh.
Business. I'm a husband, dad, faith leader, retail professional, over 20 years in the retail industry, community volunteer, and currently, right now, I'm executive member for the Chatham County Democratic Party. So a lot of things on my plate, but I love what I do. I'm running for this seat because I have a vision. I have a vision for our state and our area. And I want to tackle some of, and a lot of what you will hear me speak on is social justice issues. When I talk about my number one platform is full expansion of Medicaid for the state of Georgia. I believe healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and every citizen, especially in our county, deserves to have quality healthcare. We want to attack also fair voting rights for all, excuse me, for all Georgians. I believe the Senate Bill 202 that was passed last year was probably the worst thing as far as with our progress with voting rights throughout the years, and we just turned the clock and went back. So we need to address that bill, repeal parts of it, and hopefully with the Democratic-led state, we will be able to do that. I also want to tackle investing back into our youth, and definitely holistically, we're talking about investing back into public schools. We child care subsidies. I have some ideas around homeschooling and creating more co-ops and developing grants for that. Excuse me. And then also just making sure that in our school systems we have quality programs, entrepreneurship, workforce development, all those things that will do the greater good for the next generation. So those are some of the things that I want to tackle, and I appreciate the time and opportunity to have a conversation with you and the public and the ATR viewing our audience around these issues.
Okay, awesome. Sound like y'all, this is a Senate position, so it's a busy state these days. All the stuff that's got to be done and all the issues that you just touched. It's a lot to get done, and we're going to touch on some of those things in a minute. Um, so we just want to get your thoughts so the viewers can see and the voters can see exactly how you feel in your position on certain things. So one of the first things that we'll talk about is, uh, I know you talked about in a broad array of things just now, but is it any one specific thing that you want to get done that you feel that is pressing, that just has to get done, that you want to change or get done?
The most pressing issue right now is the healthcare part, and I'll give you an example. So if you look at the past 2 years, with the pandemic that we had and we've gone through in our community, you saw the effects of inequality with healthcare because it affected our community greater. We had people dying of preventable deaths because they were exposed to this disease, and I believe it's a correlation to citizens being underinsured or not insured. If I have to decide between buying groceries or buying gas or getting a preventative health care check, I'm probably going to do the latter. I'm probably going to get my groceries. I'm probably going to buy my milk, whatever I need to do to survive today versus getting checked. And we saw the effects. We see it now. In our community, we die at a greater rate of breast cancer, primarily because it's caught at a later stage. If you look at, what we incur in medical debt, our communities suffer greater than that. And then to have a healthy, vibrant workforce, we need healthy people. I mean, it's really a common sense approach. It's really a common sense approach. In the industry that I work in, I saw it. My frontline team members who, for whatever reason, didn't have quality care, had more sick time out of my building than anyone else. A lot of people, they come up with this narrative that people don't want to work and all of this. No, they're home sick, or they're taking care of their kids that's sick because they don't have quality health care. And we can't have a vibrant community. We can't bring additional jobs in here if we don't touch on some of these, social justice issues like healthcare, like housing. Like, we can bring all the companies in the world here, but if people can't afford to live here, then what good is it? So
Right.
in my opinion, that's why it's the number one issue for me, my number one platform. I firmly believe healthcare is the foundation of everything we do here.
Okay. So we see where you're going. So anybody that wanted to uh, give you any ideas, you're open to that for any
Absolutely.
and so you can address those issues because the Senate seats they cover like 3 or 4 of the rep districts.
Right,
They cover
correct.
like 3 rep districts because there's only 2 senators. I think they're bringing in a third one after a while.
Yeah. Yeah,
This election or next?
yeah, I'm sorry.
This election or next? They're bringing in a third one.
I believe it's the lines have been redrawn, so I'm assuming it's already happened. But
Okay.
I'm not certain on that. But definitely by the next session,
So
that
it won't be it won't
senator
be
from Statesboro will be
right. It won't be
added
three
to the
three
chain.
no more. So it'll be 4 and 3. Well, it'll be 4 reps and
Three
3 senators.
senators. Three
So it'll be
senators.
7 now.
Right.
Yeah. Oh well, I guess they needed a tiebreaker. The only way that we get around that is what? We got to make sure that we put Democrats in those seats.
You got to show up to the polls.
That's right.
So we
Yeah.
can talk about all of this and what if and why it ain't happening. But if we never show up to the polls, I'll give you an example. Primary elections, we're probably going to get less than 20% turnout. These seats are important. These seats are vital. These are the people that's writing legislative for the state. They're making decisions for the communities that they represent. We almost had a fiasco with Port Wentworth, with one state rep single-handedly almost. I mean, he has to get the delegation approval, but almost making a decision that affected the entire city.
Right.
On an incorrect premise.
Right. Exactly. No input from the people that just got elected. He thought that he could just come in and do what he wanted to do. But and that's one of the things that we want to try to prevent.
Yeah. So it's a very critical seat, and that's why. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes to going to the polls. At the end of the day, because that's how we're going to take control. And it's not about just voting for a candidate. Vote for a candidate that stands for your values, the values that you have, the values that you believe in. I mean, and I don't think we do enough of that. It amazes me, Julius. It amazes me in how uneducated we are around the electoral process. We don't know our state reps. We don't know our senators. And we don't vote. We don't take the time to research. These are things that affect you every day. So, as a community, we have to get better with that. So, and the only way we're going to make the change is we got to come out and vote.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Our next question. What are your thoughts on the upcoming statewide elections, being that we have Senator Warnock up for election? Ooh. We got all these statewide seats up. And then, the headliner is Stacey Abrams for governor. And if I noticed recently, when you look at Purdue and Kemp's commercials, they're not against each other, trying to knock one out so they can run in November against Stacy. They're both attacking Stacy right now.
Well, yeah, I
That's
mean,
unheard of.
it's a smart strategy because both of them whoever wins, they're gonna need each other's supporters to beat Stacy. So it's a smart strategy of not attacking each other. I think this primary election we're going to have a greater turnout with Republican voters because of the Kemp Purdue primary, which is going to be a very exciting one. You have the established conservative governor. I mean, and he's probably one of the most conservative governors in our history, in our recent history, going against this Trump endorsed Republican. So it's going to be very interesting. But going back to your original question, my thoughts on the statewide election, I believe we're going to have an uphill battle. The candidates are going to, and I'm speaking of the state executive candidates. So your governors, lieutenant governors, secretary of state, labor commissioner, all of those candidates are really going to have their ground game tight. They're going to have to get out into the community. Stacy lost by a small, narrow margin of voters in 2018 and I believe they're going to have a greater turnout in 2022, which means she has some ground to make up. She hasn't. I haven't, and this is just me talking. I haven't felt that energy that we had in 2018 with her when she was coming out, grassroots, ground candidate. I haven't felt that yet. Hopefully that's coming. I think even I personally know Reverend Warnock. I believe he's been too quiet. And he's going to have a harder battle this go around. He ran against a horrible candidate in Kelly Loeffler last year. I mean, I think I could have been a better candidate than her. I mean, she to run for that position, she was wealthy, and I think that's it. That is my opinion. But he's going against a figure, and I use this term. I don't use this term loosely, but he in the 80s. If you remember when Georgia won their national championship in the early 80s with Herschel Walker, I mean, he was like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
He was like a god.
Yeah, he was like sliced bread.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
So now he's not going to talk, and it's probably to his advantage. He's not going to do any debates. He's going to ride around town and ride around these counties in his bus with the big Herschel red and white campaign stuff and shake hands, sign autographs, sign footballs. And my fear is, and we talked about this earlier, we don't educate ourselves with voters. We don't understand their values. We don't do the background, what kind of person they are, what are their beliefs, what's their platform. So we're going to have crossover in November. Because you remember, primary, you have to vote in the Democrat or the primary, or the Republican primary. In November, you can vote
for anybody.
Republican, you can vote Democrat, it don't matter. Warnock won by a small percentage, like 51 to 49 or something like that. It scares me that Herschel will definitely get more crossover appeal just based on the fact that he's Herschel Walker. Nothing else. But yeah, Rebecca, he's horrible. He's horrible, but we elect horrible people into office. I don't want Michael Jordan writing laws either. But the fact is, if we don't show up to the polls, that's what's going to happen. And you're talking about someone that's going to affect the entire country. I mean, so it scares me. It scares me. So, Reverend Warnock, if you're listening, I need you to get your A game on. Let's move.
Do you think that they need to be out doing more, or what? What's your thoughts?
I think they need to be visible, and I know Warnock is different now because he's in D.C. and back and forth. He's a pastor, but I haven't seen, and maybe after the primary, it we'll see them out more. But I tell you now, Herschel is riding around hitting these rural counties. He's been doing it for a while. So I just worry that at some point, I know it's going to happen. I just worry that maybe he's going to get too far behind the 8 ball, where it's going to be hard to catch up, because we're talking about a small margin.
So, do you think that that the Democrats are content and think that since Stacey's in it, that they're just going to be a sweep at the polls, or do you think they're waiting to after the primary, then it's going to be full throttle, all gas, no brakes? What's the thought on this?
So we have a history, and the best predictor of the future is to look at your past history. We have a history of being complacent when we take control. Every Democratic president in recent history that's elected to president, the next term normally loses control of the House or the Senate, because we got happy because we elected a Democratic president. And it happened to President Obama when he got elected in 2008. And then
so you don't think that momentum is still there, that they're enthusiastic about changing, since they changed Trump out, that we're going to now change Kemp out and not get Perdue in there, and that we can change the whole state?
I don't think that momentum that we had 13, 14 months ago is still there. I just don't feel it. And I'm not speaking as a political candidate. I'm not speaking as a future public servant. I'm speaking as an average lay citizen. I don't feel it. So and that's a part of the campaign game. We gonna have to turn up the heat. My guess is they'll do it after the primary. I just hope it's not too late, But
it's a lot that has to be done. I'm looking at it, and in order for us to change anything, we got to take over. You can't change anything if you're not in control to take it to make those changes.
And that's why you have, and again, this probably will happen after the primary, and that's why we need them out there with these key candidates where we potentially can flip. My partner Jay Jones is in one seat that we potentially can flip. There's only 56 Senate seats, and I think we have 24 of them. So there's a few Senate. So that's a seat. They redrew the lines that potentially we can flip. So when this primary hits, we're going to need that celebrity name. I hate to say it, but we're going to need them out there stumping for seats like that. So, again, it probably will happen after the primary, but I just hope we don't get too complacent and get the excitement back.
Well, okay.
Because we had great momentum, Julius, last year. I mean, that runoff with Ossoff and that runoff with Warnock. I mean, I've never seen anything like that, when you had the whole country watching us, and just to see that energy, and it worked. It got us over the top. We took control of the U.S. Senate, and we tied them in Vice President Harris is the tie-breaking vote, but we need more of that, and definitely with Georgia, we're going to need that also.
Okay. What do you think in the new voting rights bill that we need to change? I heard you say it earlier, and I told you we were going to touch on it. Some of the things that need to be revised, like not being able to give uh, uh, voters water, or older people a seat so they can sit in the line, because the lines are sometimes long. You got to sit in these lines, stand in these lines for hours upon hours just to try to vote, because they don't have enough voting machines. They might break down, so it's all kind of stuff that needs to be changed. What specifically would you want to change in the new voting law?
I think that we have to look at the long line issue. So the long line typically happen in underserved areas. I guarantee if you go to these affluent areas like on the islands, they have 10 vote machines up there. And you go to certain communities where there may only be a few.
Mm-hmm.
But their argument is, well, we have higher voter participation out here, so we need more machines at this location versus that. We got to look at that. We have to look at revising. I have no idea why we only have one drop box. With most counties will only have one drop box for the entire county during the election cycle. And the drop box has to be located inside the Board of Elections only during business hours. That blows my mind. We got to look at that. A city as big, I think it's 1 per 100,000, but it does us no good if we can't make it accessible to everyone in the county. And I don't think having it in the Board of Elections office inside all the way to the back is accessible. Like you have to literally, I was speaking with someone from I think the League of Voters the other day, and you have to literally walk all the way to the back to put your absentee ballot in. And that doesn't make sense. So we need to look at that. The one piece of the bill, and we're talking about Senate Bill 202, that scares me is the ability for the Secretary of State's office to come in. They can make a case and take over any board of election, mostly in these rural counties where the likelihood of corruption is very likely. That piece scares me even more so than the not being able to hand out water during while someone's in line. The fact that we had a president, if you remember President Trump, he was bold enough to call Rattenberger and said, hey, find me 11,000 whatever votes.
Yeah.
Okay. If we took over a law, we made a case, took over an office, a board election office, if we had a corrupt, person that would run it, hey, they could probably find a few thousand here, a few thousand there. So that part of the bill scares me. I think it should have been added in, and we need to repeal that section of the bill. That's the biggest, I think, the biggest concern that I have with Senate Bill 202, and we definitely need to look at that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Next up, the new open carry gun law that was just passed the other day. The governor just signed it. You don't have to have you can bypass federal law and not be background checks. You don't have to have a license. I mean, what are these people thinking about? What's your thoughts on the new open carry gun law?
I think violent crime is rapid around the country, not just here, but around the country. I think people are hurting. And when you have impoverished areas, so Chatham County, 1 out of every 4 people, in Savannah, 1 out of every 4 people lives in poverty. The likelihood of violent crimes going up and increasing, it correlates to that number. So with all that's going on, you're saying let's put more guns on the street.
Yeah.
as a solution. I think it is so irresponsible. That they would even produce a bill like that. But we have elected state officials that would sign off on making our streets more dangerous. That's what it's doing. And it's all political, Julius. His 2018 campaign was based on easing gun laws. That's what he ran on. He didn't have a commercial. He was sitting in the chair with his son, pointing the gun at the son. I mean, it's crazy. It's all political. He's trying to get reelected. He's appealing to his base. NRA, that's big money that gives to them, and I think it's very sick. Kemp has done more damage politically to our state than any governor in recent history. He needs to go. At this point, I'll take Purdue over Kemp. I'll take Purdue over Kemp. And that's not saying like I want we want Stacey Abrams in office. But Kemp needs to go.
Well, the only reason that I wouldn't take Purdue is Purdue is backed by Trump, and that will do whatever Trump says. At least Kemp did buck on Trump. He bucked on Trump, but I think that we don't need neither one of them.
We don't need neither one. I'm being a little animated and theatrical, whatever. But yeah, we don't. Both of them are dangerous. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But again, going back to your question, it's irresponsible to have, whether it's law-abiding citizens or whatever, just do a background. Just keep the background, and we need to be doing things to take guns off the streets.
Yeah,
and destroying guns versus he has no danger, no sense of danger behind a gated community. But what about the people that's living in poverty? What about the old ladies in the senior citizen community that have to deal with violent crime every day? And you're saying gang violence, or that mother that just lost her 16-year-old son to a senseless crime. So you're saying that let's put more guns in our community? No. Very careless, very reckless, and the right-wing parties should be ashamed of themselves for using this as a political stunt.
Some people said that he was using it as a political stunt for the rural voters. But I'm saying these people already carry their gun on. They already carry their guns on. They already, I think that they were doing it because it's a plan to have us just kill more of us in the marginalized and underserved communities. But this isn't about my thoughts today. But
So think about it. You get my mind going. So let's think about history. How did we, when there was a threat to power, how did Americans take control? They had money and they had guns. They had, when they went to take territory, they had resources, they had guns. I think symbolically it's irresponsible. They're throwing this history backing up from gun laws to voting rights, all of that, throwing it back in our faces. And we have to have the courage to make a stand for these senseless, like, don't even bring me a piece of legislation like that if you're not talking about bettering our community around these social justice issues. And public safety is one, but that isn't the answer.
Already
The next thing is legalized gambling in Georgia. Give me your thoughts on that.
I'm not, this is a priority for me, and that's the honest truth. I'm not totally against it. I understand the economic, aspect of it. My thing is, let's address some poverty issues. Let's address some issues that will help the better good for the underserved, for the left out, before we get more gambling in our state. I don't know your take on it, but for me, I wouldn't necessarily vote against it. This just isn't a priority for me to have casinos, because once you bring, and I'm just using, I know there's different aspects of it, so I'm bringing casinos as an example. You bring casinos in, domestic violence goes up. Crime in the area that the casinos in goes up, prostitution goes up. You have to worry about, things like, child safety and all of that. Yeah. So, for me, this wouldn't be a priority for me. I wouldn't be totally against it, but I think there's some other pressing issues around that. So I'll leave that there.
Okay. Because I know the people want to know, because you got a lot of people, they take bus trips and everything, but it's different because then they only doing it periodically. When they're going out of town to do it, to New Orleans and Mississippi and Carolinas and Florida to do it. Every state around us have it except Alabama and Georgia. And so I guess
so it's coming. Like legalized marijuana is coming. So I think we have to manage it, legalize it, and then make sure that the communities that is coming into is getting their fair share to help with social service programs that these types of industries bring. Right. So again, I'm not totally against it, it's just not a priority of mine.
Yeah, I want to go back real quick. I want to go back to something a viewer said. Rebecca said it also gives cover to officer-involved shootings. It's so dangerous. You're right. You're making it where everybody can tow the gun, so now the officer can shoot anybody because they can say they had a gun on. And mostly everybody gonna feel like, well, I gotta carry mine because I know he got his. So it's real dangerous. These people aren't thinking. I think that's why I say it's a bill to get rid of us, and it needs to be looked at a little bit.
That's a good assessment. And if you think, I know in the past, 6 months, how many officer-involved shootings we've had?
7.
How many?
7 in the last 6 months.
Wow. So that's something to be said. And again, Kemp doesn't have to live in where I live. He doesn't live where most of my constituents live. And I honestly believe it's all political. It's all political.
Oh, ain't no question. No question, it's all political. But with the Supreme Court, with the legalized gambling in Georgia, we're going to, once this election is over, I would just say call your congressperson and tell them how you feel, to the viewers out there, because it's a lot of people that's for it and it's a lot of people that's not. This is supposed to be the Bible Belt is what they call this, the Bible Belt. But everybody around us in the Bible Belt, except Alabama, Georgia, and Kentucky, I guess, are the only states that don't have. I don't know about Kentucky, but I know Alabama and Georgia don't. So I mean, you got the
Yes.
lotto, you got all kinds of stuff you could do with the lotto. But I guess it's controlled by the state. If the state
Right.
can control it, then they feel better about it.
And I'm not the subject matter expert on on the gambling lotto, but from my understanding, even with lotto, we didn't do right by the Hope Scholarship money that was supposed to have been going into that. So when this happens, and eventually it will, we need to make sure the appropriations are set where it's going into the right buckets. And like the thing that's going to happen with the hotel motel tax here in Chatham County. Eventually it'll get passed. I know it didn't get passed this last time. Eventually it'll get passed. We just got to make sure on the front end that we're appropriating it correctly. It's going in, just not into one bucket, but into the right ones that's going to holistically affect our community.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay, Supreme Court Justice election process. In case the viewers out there don't know, we're going to give them a short little synopsis on what it is. In Georgia, probably one of the only states in the country that does this, probably one of the only states in the world, well, the only places in the world that does this, where a Supreme Court justice can resign 6 months before the election, and the election is canceled by the governor. Canceled. I don't care if you done spent $1 million running against that judge. If he resigns 6 months before the election is canceled. So if the election is canceled, then if the election is canceled, then the governor then can step in and appoint somebody to replace that judge. The person that was running in the election is just out of luck. I won't say the other word, but he's just out of luck. He cannot run in that election. The election is canceled. He done spent $1 million running against that judge. The judge resigns. The election is canceled. It is unfair. I think they have they've appealed it to the Supreme Court and of the Supreme Court of the United States to try to get an answer. I don't know where Orlando went. His camera went out, but I can still see that he's in the studio. Can you hear me, Orlando?
Yes, sir. My power went down.
Oh, okay.
I'm coming. Sorry.
Okay. I was wondering what had happened. But in the state of Georgia, just for my viewers to know, that in the state of Georgia, the process is so bad that you can just move somebody out by just resigning. That way, the governor can keep appointing somebody. 6 months before, he can appoint somebody for up to 2 years. Now, the election don't have to take place for another 2 years. So the person that he's appointed can now resign 6 months before that election. And he can appoint somebody again. This is criminal. Criminal. The process is criminal. What's your thoughts on it?
I think it's a way of getting around the system. Again, we use the word political loosely, but it's a political move. They've been doing it forever. They do it in other executive seats in the state. And we need to look at that as legislators to make sure the process is fair. It's another way of suppressing voters. It's just another form.
Yeah.
But it's legal. That's
the whole bad part about it.
And one of the other offices, they were looking at retiring one of the executive members and replacing them with his son. that is just like, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
How crazy is
It's
that?
criminal, but they don't care. You know why they don't care? Because they know we're not going to fight them on it.
We're
A
not.
lot of things are done because they know that you can't fight them on it because the laws are there to protect them. And the laws are antiquated and illegal according to the laws of the United States. Now, state law does not trump federal law,
Right. Correct.
but the feds have to step in, and the feds are not going to step in unless they're asked to step in. So that's the problem.
And this is why you spoke on our state election, like Warnock. This is why those positions are so critical, because, like, to your point, federal trumps state. We need the federal government to step in and mandate some of these things that the state is blatantly getting away with.
Right.
Your example with the Supreme Court justice, the voting rights bill. We need a federal voting rights law to clean all of this mess up. Georgia's not the only state that's doing this. There are several other states. The health care. We tried to do that with Affordable Care Act, but they challenged that through the Supreme Court after it happened, and we couldn't mandate it. But we do need federal help with some of these things because the state is not going to do right. They've shown us time and time again they're not going to do the right thing. So it's very important. But yeah, it's a political game. It's a political game. That's all it is. Yeah. And it's a way to keep control. It's a way to suppress, another form of voter suppression, where we don't even get a chance to vote.
Exactly. It happened in 2020 to John Barrow. John Barrow had done spent almost $1 million in that race against the run for judge, Supreme Court judge, and the race was canceled on him. How do you cancel an election when somebody's running? If that person retires, then they can't run. It is, and the Supreme Court has to step in and clear all this up and tell them that they cannot do it and make them have to pass, change that whole rule, that whole law, that whole process.
That's right.
Not only that, on one of the last things I got for you is the Public Service Commission. That's just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just as bad. This public service. I mean, these are powerful positions now. Powerful positions. Even with the Supreme Court justices of Georgia, those are powerful positions. And then you got the Public Service Commission, which some say is the fourth branch of government for the state, because of their control by the utilities companies.
They regulate the utility companies.
Yeah. So how do you get District 2 and District 3, which is up north in Atlanta, and they only represent District 2 and District 3, but they got to get picked by all the voters of the whole state? What's your thoughts on that? It's
an antiquated law, election process with and man, where's Robert Bryan when you need him? This area.
Oh, he'll be doing this right here now. He'll be doing this here, and he'll be telling everybody off.
Yeah, you're right. But I think that with the Public Service Commissions, they need to correlate it with at least the state seats somewhat, and even if you have to double or triple up the state seats and make it more fair and equitable, because you're right, I shouldn't have to vote for someone in Atlanta that's on the other side of the state
that don't even represent you. But I mean, they do represent me. Yeah, to a point where they voting to hike your tax, your rates for your electric bill or your water bill or your the water bill is controlled locally, but your electric bill and other utilities, it don't make no sense.
And again, these are races, and they are so important. That position there is so critical. But these are races that never get any. We never hear anything about. We don't know the candidates, but it affects our everyday life. I mean, they regulate the utilities company. So yeah. So we need to change that, and that's something definitely from the state legislative position we need to look at that election process, especially with that race there. And I believe it's like 6 public service commissioners.
I know it might be 6. I know 4 that I know of. It's 4 that I know of, and those 4, because 3 and 4 is down this way, isn't it?
I just
4
don't
is
know.
in Savannah, and the rest are. I know 2 and 3 is up now.
Okay.
2 and 3, they're up now, and they're up north. So Robert, if he was here, he'd be able to tell us. He's the expert. He ran for public. He ran for Public Service Commission a couple of years ago. Got over 2 million votes.
2 million votes.
And still 2 million votes and still lost. So and those seats can be won, and we just got to come out and vote, like you said. It is vital that we come out and vote. We're glad that you came on, gave us your opinion on these 7 or 8 things that we had, and just so the viewers can know everybody that's in this particular race. We got your one of your opponents, Representative Mallow. I think he's on next week. And then awesome. I think Robert said he's going to try to have both of y'all back to have a discussion before the election. So y'all stay tuned for that. Both of y'all are great guys, and and I'm sure we'll be well served. So in closing, you want to give everybody your closing and tell them how to donate to your campaign, how to volunteer to your campaign, and how to reach you.
Yeah, and thank you again, Julius. Thank you again, ATR, for having me on. This has been fun. Maybe later I can be a co-host or something. I don't know. But
well, originally this was supposed to be your show.
I know. I just set myself up for that one. but hey, you never know. One day it may happen. But you guys are doing great. I appreciate the work you do. You guys keep us informed, and what I like about what you got, this is stuff you don't get anywhere else. People have a lot of opinions or whatever, but at the end of the day, you give us the information that we don't get that we can't get in mainstream media, we can't get in the papers, whatever. So we appreciate everything you do. But again, in closing, I would say I'm just like you. I'm an everyday guy. I'm dad, husband, a servant in the community. And my values, I believe in the same values you believe in, for a better today and a better next generation. And if you send me to Atlanta, I promise, I'll be a voice in the ear for you. So you can reach me on votefororlandoscott.com. That's my website. You can check out more information from me. You can also give. We need money to run campaigns, and it takes money, and it's very expensive. I didn't know how expensive a statewide campaign, a citywide campaign was until I got into this race. So please give, and you can reach me. Send me messages or whatever. I'm on Facebook and all that good stuff. So I appreciate you. Appreciate Savannah, and I look forward. Early voting starts May 2nd. Primary election day is May 24th. But thank you again for having me. This has been fun. Enjoyed you. And thank you, Brother Brown. Thank you.
And we'll see you back in a couple of weeks when we have both of y'all back on. And so y'all can have a discussion.
Love to do it.
All right. Sir. Appreciate you coming out.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Like that. like this.